this video, you will learn more about what anchoring is and why we need it when we work in the climate transition. You also learn about different types of anchoring and what tools we can use for anchoring. Let's start with the Viable Cities model again. Viable Cities invited municipalities to set up the so-called transition team, an intermediary group who has the ultimate goal to develop, create the arena, and support the work in the arena. The arena is formed by organizations or representatives of organizations from business, academia, citizens, and public organizations. The arena's goal is to develop the plans, the transition plans, how to make the city climate neutral, which are then synthesized in the Climate City Contract. However, having these plans developed doesn't necessarily mean that the organizations represented in the arena are committed to their implementation and they take ownership over these plans. In order to get them committed, we need to anchor them. What does anchoring mean at the organizational level? So far, every organization have been doing the planning and the implementation of the plans within the framework of the organization. However, as we discussed it in previous videos, in transition, we need to form a so-called network governance where the planning and the implementation of the transition plans become the shared responsibility of the quadruple helix actors. However, every organization has their own processes, which needs to be changed, which needs to be aligned to the new requirements of the network governance. It includes a lot of people in the organization, a lot of processes which need to be changed, and people need to understand what is transition about, why they need to change their planning and implementation methods. Anchoring is about inducing systemic changes within an organization and preparing them to be able to function in a network governance and share the responsibility of planning and implementation with others. So let's zoom into one organization and what anchoring means at the organizational level. In order to induce systemic changes in an organization, you have to find the right points to intervene. We need to place ourselves in the system and influence it at points where the minimal effort and resources will create the largest long-term influence, like changing structures or influencing mental models. These points are called the high leverage points. There are two types of anchoring: network anchoring and institutional anchoring. Network anchoring means identifying people within the organization who can help induce systemic changes. They are high leverage points. If you want to induce systemic changes within an organization, first you need to identify people who are willing to and enthusiastic about your cause and willing to act with you. They are high leverage points. These people can become the agents of change within the organization, and we can form a network of change agents within the organizations who slowly induce changes through their networks. So when you want to identify change agents, it's important that they are not at the very bottom of the hierarchy, and they are very trusted people by their immediate surrounding and people who others listen to. They need to be also very enthusiastic because their motivation gonna drive the networking, the network anchoring in the organization. So once you identified the change agents, it's important to also develop or build their understanding and capacity for network anchoring. And finally, when more and more people are identified and more people are involved in the network anchoring, we can engage the leaders and secure the commitment of the entire organization. So let me give you an example about network anchoring in an organization. My sister, she is a professor at a university in a business school where she wanted to induce basically changes in the teaching methods and include sustainability perspectives. However, first she faced a lot of resistance from the other teachers and professors. So what she did is that she identified or found some friends within the organization who were very like-minded and who shared her ambitions. First, they started to have just lunches together and discuss that what changes they would like to see in the university. After a while, they also realized that they know some other people within the organization who might want to join. So they invited them. And then suddenly this small group of 3 people grew to 15 people. Then they thought that, okay, 15 people is better, but it's still not a crowd. So they need to expand this small club which they created. So they decided to organize an IPCC marathon when they read out the IPCC report in the aula of the university. Many people passed by and started to listen to this IPCC marathon and found it very interesting. And then they expressed their interest to join this small group of scientists. And suddenly, this small group grew to a crowd of 100 people. Once they became so big, their power within the university also increased to the extent that in the end, the rector invited them and promised them that they're gonna make substantial changes in the teaching methods of the university to include sustainability aspects. However, in every organization, there are going to be people who resist change. And it's important that we pay attention to them because sometimes they can be even the majority of the people. So it's important that we understand that what are their needs, what are their losses, and what are their fears. Because as soon as we understand it, we can address it. We can maybe help them to understand it better. They sometimes have irrational fears, which we can very easily manage by just talking to them. And also maybe they fear that they're going to lose their position in the new system. So we can find solutions for that. It's very important, however, to sit down with them, to understand them and talk to them. The other type of anchoring is institutional anchoring, which has 3 forms: the interpretative anchoring, value anchoring, and economic anchoring. So what is interpretative anchoring? Every organization have their own language. They use buzzwords, they use special concepts and terms. They maybe disregard certain things in their language and some they value. They also have their own processes, that how they develop plans, how they implement them, what are the decision-making processes, and they have also their own rules and reward systems. These are high leverage points. The representatives of organizations come to the arena and they start to work on transition plans and focus on the issue of climate change and how to reduce emission. They learn a new language, a lot of new concepts, and also a lot of new processes and rules. However, when they go back to their organization and want to share these plans with them in this new language, they might encounter a lot of tension from the organization because people don't understand what they are talking about. There are a lot of new concepts and terms which they never heard of before. And also the processes like how to make, for example, decisions or how to make plans and implement that should be also changed, which creates tension. So it's very important that if we want to get the organization behind and on board with the new plans, we translate or interpret these plans to their own language, to their own processes and own rules. The second form of institutional anchoring is value anchoring. Values, norms, and interests within an organization very much shape how people work together and what is rewarded in the system. If you want to introduce new values, you might want to develop new rewards that can motivate people to act accordingly. Through internal communication channels, the organizational discourse can be also best influenced, where stories with new values are articulated. And finally, a high leverage point within value anchoring is addressing the unstated assumptions. An unstated assumption can be such an expectation that growth is eternal and will never stop. If you identify these assumptions, which might be not in line with the transition mission to become climate neutral, then once you reveal it, you can address it and make people shift their models, how they look at things and how they're going to act. And the final form of institutional anchoring is economic anchoring. If we revisit our model where I introduced network governance, but we look at it from the other way around, that the arena is already set up, transition plans are already developed, then what we need is that organizations commit to the implementation of these plans and own these plans. So once the organizations introduce the plans in their planning system, in their long-term plans, and it also appears in the organizational budget, we can say that economic anchoring has happened. Now that you have got a glimpse of the complexity and the intensity of inducing systemic changes within an organization, you might wonder that how can representative in the arena go back to their organization and induce such big changes? There are different ways how we can support them. First of all, it is important that we build their capacity to become change agents within the arena. Second, if we set up and create a forum for reflection and knowledge sharing, where they can also share experiences with each other and support each other, that can be very helpful. But we shouldn't have exclusively the expectation on these representatives, but the arena itself can also help to induce organizational changes. First of all, it can set up a group of high-level representatives within the arena that can directly contact directors. So not only the representative of the organization induce changes from the bottom, but these high-level representatives, by contacting directors, can induce changes from the top. Another option how you can support systemic changes is to basically develop experiments, transition experiments, such as system demonstrators, small projects, which in small represent the complex changes which we require at the city scale, but which can provide a very good model and example to all the organizations in the city that this is a possible and achievable plan to implement transition plans. A third option is to get as much media attention as possible, because through this external communication, getting into the media, you can gain a big prestige for your local arena, make people really look at it as an important governance tool, and the organizations who are represented in the arena can also benefit from this attention and are more willing to comply with the plans and implement them.